Hello and welcome to the Freedom Zone, where the truth is set free, whether people like it or not. I'm your host Candace, and I'm here today to go over a few issues that the mainstream media tends to push aside or put with their daily propaganda and spin. And these are super important issues, and people need to remember these as they go to the voting booth in 2020, because our very survival depends on a lot of the things that are going on today. And the fact that something has been done about it or has not been done about it makes a big, big difference. This week I would like to bring up first the fact that Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen has resigned. I feel like she was fairly embattled as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, because Congress has her effectively hamstrung because they don't give them enough money for people to stay when we retain them. They don't have laws that will be of any assistance. They need more people on the border. They need more judges hearing asylum cases. And we need, and this is important, we need less liberal lawyers down there telling people when they ask you A, you reply B. That's not right. If you are seriously, first of all, in danger of your life, or you feel threatened for your life, why wouldn't you just stop in Mexico if they have offered you some sort of asylum? If you're afraid, wouldn't it be okay to stay somewhere where somebody's, has a program for people that need asylum from other Central and South American countries? I mean, I would think so. But of course, I realize that there's more free things here. You've got your welfare programs and your social programs and free health care and all the things that they're receiving. So naturally, the goodies are better on this side. But until we stop that, it's going to be impossible to stop the flow of people over the border. I believe Secretary Nielsen did her very best. She and President Trump together have fought an uphill battle every day, trying to protect us from the problem at the border. I mean, President Trump is overwhelmed with people who are trying to stop him from doing his job. And his first job as president is to protect the people. And you've got tons of it's like a human wave coming over the border, and you got half a dozen guys and gals trying to stop them, and there's no way that it can be done. I mean, he's put more regular troops on the border, and that's a good thing. We don't want to start a war with anybody. We really don't want to hurt anybody, but it's getting to the point that we can't stop the flow. I mean, it's something's going to have to change. I mean, President Trump signed an executive order so that people who want asylum had to stay on the Mexican side of the border. But as usual, the people whose cases are being processed, they want to take them in here, and we're full. We don't have anybody, any place, anywhere to put these people while they wait. And a judge from the Ninth Court Circuit, who's no one's friend, and tried to overrule every single thing that President Trump does, whereas when Obama did something, nobody had a word to say. It's amazing to me the political bias that has entered the judges. We talked about that last week. There's always a judge trying to make law or trying to pull the law away from the president, because he has executive power to do these things. There's no way that you can say he can't do it. He has the executive power to protect the citizenry of the United States, and he should be able to do that. And he wanted the people who came to stay in Mexico until their cases are processed, because right now we have catch and release. You catch them, oh, I want asylum. Okay, well, come back in next year in April and we'll have your case, we'll hear your case before the judge. Well, they're released into the interior of the United States, and they're never to be heard from again, because that was their point anyway. It was to get here, the talk and walk the walk and get to where they want to go. And I realize they have family, maybe a lot of them are not bad people. That's not what we're saying. But a lot of them are. A lot of them are part of gangs. A lot of them are not even from Central, South of Mexico and Mexico. They're from Bangladesh. They're from China. They're, if you see some of the news people who've gone down to the border and are walking with the border agents, they're wearing flak jackets. They're getting people from other countries besides Mexico, Central, and South America. So it's an invasion. Especially when people come and they're waving their own flag from the place that they're supposedly afraid to live. Somehow the math on that doesn't work out for me. I don't really understand how you're unhappy there and you're scared, but you're still proud of your country. That doesn't make sense. If I wanted to go and live somewhere else, I would be flying the flag of wherever I thought that I wanted to go live. It would just make sense. But what is unreal is the pushback that this president is taking in order to do his job. And not just that, he's trying to run his office, getting people to do the work, because he can't do everything. He has to delegate things. And everybody's getting in his business about, can he make an executive order? Why did you fire this person? Why did you hire this person? That's really none of their business. And even like Senator Grassley, of whom we were so proud during the Kavanaugh fiasco, because it really wasn't a hearing, it was a fiasco. I mean, he was tough as nails, and he got in there and he was punching back. But now he's going rhino on us. Why? Why is he going rhino on us? Did somebody get to him? Did something happen that made him change his mind? It's amazing, because he's urging the president to stop the purge of Homeland Security. Well, first of all, the president said the other day, I don't know where that came from. I'm not purging the Homeland Security. I just have to do some things different to try and get this job done. So all of a sudden he's purging the Department of Homeland Security, and you've got someone who's turned rhino on him in his own party, fighting him back against something he has got every single right to do. He has every single right to make his own work base. He has every single right to make laws of like executive order laws. He has those rights, and they are constitutionally given rights. In fact, like Bob Barr will tell you, he has every right to do this. He has every right to do that. Like firing Comey. That particular position sits at the good pleasure of the president at the time. It doesn't matter if you've been brought on for a 10-year contract and the president keeps you or he lets you go. That's his prerogative. I just don't understand why it's so hard for these elected officials to assist the president in protecting their constituency. These are the people that voted for them. These are the people you are sworn to protect. You take an oath as a congressperson, a senator, a military person, a policeman. All of these are sworn to protect the Constitution from enemies foreign and domestic. They are violating their oath, and they are working as hard as they can to keep the president from fulfilling his oath. That's bad enough. You don't have your own oath, and you're violating your own oath that you said so help me God to, and you're also keeping someone else from doing that. That's absolutely horrible, horrible. We have a 203% increase in the border crossings from 2017 to 2018. Think about it. If that's 10,000, you're going up 200%. That's like 30,000 or more, really more. The president has to do something. There is no more room here. And not only that, but these people that have gone in and decried that they need asylum, they're being bused from the border into the interior. In fact, Massachusetts is a very big place where they are being bused to. Now, I don't know who's doing the busing. I don't know how it's getting done, But these people are not hanging around Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California. They're going deeply into the interior, and we don't know who those people are. That would be like if you brought people in from the street that you don't know and put them in your home. Are you going to feel comfortable with someone you don't know? They may be honest, they may be not. You don't know. They may be an axe murderer. And that's what we're doing. We're seeding people in our homes that we don't know, that we can't vet. You know, they can say their name's Bob and really their name is Joe. You don't know who they are. They're strangers to us. They may be good people, they may be bad people. But the thing is, you don't know who they are. We don't know how to get a hold of them. They may have a court date in April next year. And of course, they're not going to go back to Arizona or New Mexico or Texas, wherever they got, entered the United States, and go to that hearing, because that was not their objective. Their objective was to get here. Yes, some of them want a better life. Yes, some of them have family here, and they're going to live with the family and support each other. And that's not, the worst thing that could happen. But what about the people that are not here for a good purpose? What about people from MS-13? What about people from China? What about people from Bangladesh? What about people from the Middle East? I mean, the other day, a woman from China was caught trying to get into Mar-a-Lago, where the president has his golf course, and he stays there sometimes, and he was actually at Mar-a-Lago, and she was caught with a zip drive, a thumb drive full of malware. Where did she come from? I mean, maybe she came in legally, and maybe she's going to do something bad because she wants to or because she's been directed to. China is not necessarily our friend, so, that's kind of suspicious right there. And then you're just letting people that you don't know into the country daily. And if we don't stop, there's a man who's in the Catholic Church. His name is Cardinal Robert Sarah. He has written a book about how we will lose our country if we do not stop our immigration policies. Do we have a picture of Robert Sarah, Josh? There we are. Yes, he's from New Guinea, and he is from a predominantly Muslim area. He says if we don't bend back to our Judeo-Christian roots and stop the flow of people from other places who don't believe the way we are, you will see the United States disappear. The book he has written is that evening's coming and the day is almost over. I believe that's the name of it. And it's he says he is in position to know that people, how people will be, as we've said before, the Muslim doctrine is to replace your doctrine and with their doctrine, and that by force if necessary. So not only are we having people coming in that are Christian, but we also have people that do not follow our culture, and Sharia law and the Constitution are never going to be compatible. So that's a pretty good book or article to look in on and see what he has to say about that. And the best way to replace your voting populace is to replace it with another one, which is what I believe our senators and congressmen have in mind. But we're going to have to go to the next part of our show, so we're going to take a little break, and I'll be back shortly to talk to you about something else.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in J next to Walmart. And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in J next to Walmart.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and J, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World. In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Hello and welcome back to the Freedom Zone. I want to go over one of the Democrat possible nominees for 2020. As we know, it's approaching, and somebody will have to run against the president, and every single Democrat that's on the wackadoodle chorus are throwing their hat in the ring. And I mean, if it's a crazy idea, they're all for it. If it's something that will ruin the country and the economy, let's do it. It's just amazing. Or if you want to be a socialist or a communist, you know, we got Bernie Sanders and all that. The more radical the idea, the more these Democratic candidates are embracing it. But the possible forerunner for the Democratic Party, and he hasn't made a decision, but it would be Joe Biden. And I have a little picture there. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Uncle Joe Biden is, he's trying to shrug out of being a white man, which I don't understand the whole concept of that, because you're born the way you're born, and you know, whatever happened in your life, maybe you could help it, maybe you couldn't. But he patronizes minorities like he's a good old boy and everybody else is out to get you. And he's awash in scandal for the way he treats women. And personally, he creeps me out just by looking at the photos of him creeping people out. He's overly familiar with his hands. He is sniffing hair. He's like this little girl to the left here. She moved away from him 2 or 3 times, and he kept saying stuff, and she looks like, you know, get me out of here. That's one of the offenses. And there she is again, like, oh my gosh, get off of me. And then there's another one. I mean, of course, there's so many incidences that we can't get them all, but this is kind of a montage. Like I said, he creeps me out. If he came at me with his arms open or something, I would be like running the other way, because he's just so sleazy and touchy. And in today's world, as a professional woman myself, and many of these women are professional women, it's a handshake. How are you? Nice to see you. How's you? Whatever. But you don't, oh, touchy-feely, kissy-kissy. That's out of line. That's way out of line. It's, I don't care what your intentions are, it's still way out of line. And one of the worst things he does is he would swim naked in front of his female Secret Service agents. Now, I don't know if he swam naked in front of the men as well, but that is gross. Who would do that? Who would do that when there are people there to watch? And what kind of person? That comes down to a hostile workplace. If you want my opinion, it is a hostile workplace that is sexual harassment. And these people I've got a right to have a decent place to work. And also, Joe Biden seems to think this is just amusing, that he's just a sweetheart and he just loves to hug on everybody and kiss everybody. Well, you can do that at your family reunion, but in the workplace, it's definitely not acceptable. And the thing about the Democrats that is so hypocritical, when Kavanaugh was being interviewed and ready to try to be a Supreme Court judge, we believe this woman. Even though the woman has no proof, she never went to a cop, she never has done anything that would show a legality that she had tried to stop him, or she had been offended at the time, but she is to be believed because she seems so reputable. Okay, that's fine. But if you're a Democrat, you just overlook that. It's like in Virginia with Governor, Vice Governor, Assistant Governor Fairfax. The things that he's being accused of, they're just ignoring. And it seems like to me that's every bit as bad as anything else that has been called out on other people, and especially Republicans. If they do something, then it's horrible. But if the Dems do it, it's like, well, that's kind of cute. He's just that way. I'm sorry, I don't agree. I don't think that anybody has a right to touch anybody if they don't want you to touch them, because this is your personal space, and you don't need to invade it without my invitation. But the bad thing about powerful people like him is that they feel that they can abuse their position with things like touchy-feeliness, and also their children seem to assume that they're able to do the same, and they are to a certain extent. And you're saying, like, well, what are you talking about? Well, Hunter Biden, who's the son of Joe Biden, he went into do we have a picture of Hunter? Yeah, there's Hunter Biden. He went into the Ukraine and did some business there, along with Devin Archer and Chris Hines, who is John Kerry's stepson from his it was another marriage. And they formed a company called Rosemont Capital, and they went into the Ukraine and sat on the board of a natural gas company there. In fact, I've written about that, and that article should be up for you to read this week. But these are privileged young men, and they went into the Ukraine. I broke this story on Politichicks in 2014, because that's when it happened. That's when we had a lot of the unrest in the Ukraine, a lot of the problems going on there. But these people who had a connection to the White House, because at that time Joe Biden was in the White House, had gone in there, and for all intents and purposes, they were helping this gas company. But at the same time, they were the gas company was tied to Viktor Yanukovych, who was the president at the time. He was ousted for a while, and then he got back in. And they were going over there and it's hard to say exactly what they were doing, but we really weren't in relationships with the Ukraine at the time and the rebels and the regular government and all this. It was very controversial, and yet the news said nothing about this, nothing at all. In fact, when Paul Manafort, who was also working for Viktor Yanukovych, who was the president in the Ukraine at the time, was on trial, I desperately tried to get this article to people who might not know that the Bidens had been over there doing something. Were they doing the same thing that Paul Manafort was doing? Maybe not exactly the same thing, but pretty close, perhaps. Were they registered as foreign agents? I haven't been able to find anything out about that, and they possibly were. But at the same time, I realized that Paul Manafort, he had made like millions, and he is accused, and I'm not sure exactly how that went, of laundering the money, even though his trial's been very public. He was as a very older man, and he's been in solitary confinement for these crimes. They have nothing to do with collusion with Russia because, or the president, but it was his own affairs that he had with his partner, for the same president who, for all intents and purposes, was probably not all that he should have been. And so these young men took seats on the board of their natural gas company in the Ukraine called Burisma Holdings Limited, which was once tied to Viktor Yanukovych. They also are in bed with China. China? You're kidding, right? No, they formed an investment deal with China called Bohai. It's directly funded by the Bank of China. Now, the Bank of China is very different from the Bank of America or Wells Fargo or any of our banks. It is solely owned by the government of China. This deal is 100% with the government of China, who has been identified as a threat to us in many, many ways. And as I said in the first segment, a Chinese woman was caught with a thumb drive full of malware going into Mar-a-Lago while the president was there. So we realize that China is a clear and present danger in many ways, subtle ways that you wouldn't go to war for, but it's something that is very dangerous to the U.S. And this is just one example. There's many, many more. If you make any kind of research, there's so many people in the Senate, the House, other higher positions of government who their children have made deals with some of these countries that are not necessarily our best friends. They're not necessarily looking out for our best interest. And it's scary because China particularly is like, well, okay, you tell me something good and maybe I'll let your son buy into this business or that business that we're doing. So state secrets could easily pass into other countries that don't have our best interests at heart, and that we're trying to fight on a certain level, on an intellectual level or a technological level, and you've got people in the government who are receiving deals, quote unquote, from these countries. Also, when he was vice president, Joe Biden himself went into the Ukraine to offer assistance to them with their natural gas and their ability to expand their operations. Now, I did not know he was an engineer. He may be. I don't even know what he did before he started into politics. He might have been, just out of high school or out of college, because he's been there forever. He's run for a president about 3 times. He would be an extreme leftover has-been if President Obama hadn't dubbed him vice president. Now, with someone who has political ambition, a lot of times dubbing them vice president is the best way to hamstring them. In fact, they thought that they would do that with Teddy Roosevelt because he had political ambitions. He was a wealthy man. They thought, well, we'll just make him vice president and then he won't be any more trouble for us. Well, what happened was the president was assassinated and he ended up being president. So that didn't work out very well. But if it wasn't for Obama dubbing him vice president, he would be last 20 years ago news. But he also he's the kind of guy that would do this. He would go over to a country where there's unrest, where we're trying to calm the unrest and, make sure he, helps them. I don't know how much else he did, but that was the supposed reason for it. But I find that untrustworthy. And at the same time, I feel bad for Paul Manafort because he was also working with this former president in Ukraine, and he laundered money, supposedly about $18 million or so there. And okay, that might be true. I don't know. I haven't seen all the evidence about what his crimes are, but I just don't know that it's fair to put a man in jail if we had a vice president that went over and did some of the same thing. I don't know if they all registered as foreign agents, and that was part of the thing that Paul Manafort was charged for. But it's like not only is the possible, he hasn't said yes or no, and I don't hardly see how he could make it with the Creepy Joe Hansy thing as far as being the presidential candidate. But he could be the possible forerunner because he has history, I suppose, and I guess he's about 30% reasonable compared to the others who are only about 10%. I mean, but can you imagine President Biden going over to a foreign country and going to somebody's wife whose culture might be totally different than ours and saying, "Oh, your hair smells good," and rubbing her shoulders? And that seems kind of scary. But he and others like him, like John Kerry and his stepson, and a lot of others. There are a lot of others. So please, if you want to know, look it up. They allowed that their children are allowed to do things and making deals with possible foreign adversaries. I mean, is this what people want for a president? I don't think so. I mean, he's run for president before to no avail, and if you want to know more about this business with Biden and the Ukraine, you can read my article, which should be up shortly for your perusal on Fetch Your News, and you can contact me on any of the social medias that I have available, like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and of course you can always email a question to me. I'd be glad to answer it back. And we're certainly happy that you joined with us today, and I hope that it gave you something to think about, because we have to start thinking. We have to make our own judgments. We have to listen to our own news that we look up and we read, rather than just believing whatever comes over CNN, MSNBC, or ABC, NBC, because they're still stuck on collusion, and they're so disillusioned that didn't work out. So thank you for joining us today. We hope we'll see you next time in the Freedom Zone. I'm your host, Candace, and I hope you have a really good week, and keep up the good work and talking to your senators, your congressmen, your elected officials locally. You are the change. Thank you.